Welcome to Snapshot of America. I'm David Stossel. Today we are going to look at the higher education system, mainly colleges and universities, and how they're coping with the current economic climate of the U.S., as well as what initiatives are being employed by some of these institutions to ensure students are learning while attempting to make resources last. Now, we have some special guests today. Today we have, our special guest has held positions at Miles Community College, Director of Outreach, Assistant Dean of Outreach at Workforce Development, Associate Dean of Workforce Programs, Chief Academic Officer, former Dean and CEO of Great Falls College of Technology, and current Vice President of Technology at Jellystone University. Wow, that's more than a mouthful. Dr. John Babbage. Dr. Babbage, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks for having me.
Given the resources today are becoming even more and more restricted to colleges and universities, what type of initiatives do you have in place for institutions employing to help students learn and make resources last?
Well, first off, let me say thank you for having me on Snapshot.
Sure.
Pleasure to be here. You know, there's a lot of benefits to having an online environment. Just technology in general benefits us a lot. First off, it's a better way to distribute information to your students, to get all that information out to them in whatever form you want to use. Blogs, wikis, you got numerous options there. You get flexibility for your students. They can get online in the middle of the night. They can be in class in their pajamas eating ice cream and have a great time with it. That's
a great point. So, okay, I'm going to go get my director right now. We're going to get you $10,000. We're going to write you a check. Hypothetical. I'm just joking, Bob. What are you going to do with that money? What are you going to do for schools?
Well, first off, $10,000 sounds great if you're an individual. You know, you could go out and you could buy a few computers. You know, computers are down to $200, $300 a piece now. But when you get into an institution, an educational institution, that money isn't going to go as far because now you have to buy software for every user. And in our case, that $10,000 just isn't going to be a huge bang. But we can use it to invest in some software to help some of our traditional classes transition to an online learning environment, and that's going to benefit everyone.
That makes a lot of sense. So we have on the phone with us is a student who earned her graduate degree through online courses in tourism from the University of Colorado. Britni, is online learning process as efficient and effective as Dr. Babbage is indicating?
Good afternoon, David and Dr. Babbage.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I have to say I prefer the traditional courses that I've had at CSU for my undergraduate degree. I felt that I went to the right school at Colorado State. So let's just say I felt a little buffalo when I tried to go to Colorado University.
Well, what made your experience at CU online graduate program so different than CSU's traditional undergraduate program?
Well, being in the Department of Tourism, I think the greater of the two is traditional at CSU. Getting students engaged online is too difficult, and the traditional classroom works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, right?
Well, if I might interject here, the problem isn't that the educational system is broken, but rather that our economy is broken. And in this situation, our educational institutions need to find new ways of educating students and make our resources last. We've got to stretch those resources as much as possible. For that reason, I think online is the way to go. Universities and colleges, they can educate many more students with students having the flexibility that they need for courses. And really, society is moving towards everything being done remotely, so we need to be on board too.
So are you telling me we should see vacations online pretty soon? I mean, that's what we're really talking about. Will people travel the world from their own living room? I mean, to meet some of these challenges of the new world, our students need to work with the technology, and as much as possible, I mean, how realistic can these options be? On the other line, we have an instructor that has had a lot of online classes, actually all of them for the last 12 years, Dr. Fortek. Dr. Fortek, is this a realistic option for students wanting an education? And is this an acceptable or even effective vessel for students to join the workforce?
Well, thank you for having me on, David. That answer really depends. From my perspective, technology will never go away. It'll be here forever. You can see it everywhere where you go. That being said, I think it's perfectly fine for institutions to implement it. And just have considerations that it may not be something that you want to have in your pre-med curriculum, but something you would like to have for general education and so forth. But I think in order for it to be truly effective, I would imagine that It's necessary for the institutions to have some sort of faculty development training on how to use this particular technology and information with their methodologies in order for it to be beneficial. The thing I would like to ask is, with your student notes online is, did you have problems with the computer, or did you have problems with the way the teacher was using the technology in class?
I must say I was very disappointed because we had a discussion and seen that everyone was not participating. We only had to post our own response and respond to 3 other individuals. But how do you do that when nobody participates in the discussions? I also thought that the teachers weren't very involved in my learning. I would email them, they would never respond, or they responded too late. It was just frustrating.
I think in that case, then you can really say that your experience was due to the teacher not being properly developed. And it's really not the technology, but the institution's fault. If you take a look currently, there's not many institutions that have some sort of faculty development training on how to utilize the technology with the lessons of today.
Britni, did you have any problems with the computer, the software, or the the technology in general?
I had very little problems, and those were all in the beginning. But once I became familiar with the computer and isolated feeling, I was fine with the technology part. It was just that many other students were not engaged, and it did not feel as though the teacher was available when needed.
As Dr. Fortek indicated, this appears that teachers may not be employing the technology to its full potential. Training instructors on how to apply the technology may be an additional cost of utilizing this technology, but I believe that it will pay for itself in a short amount of time. Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Fortek?
Oh, yes, Dr. Message, I would definitely agree. Technology, if it's used correctly with instruction, can be a very powerful tool. But we have to remember that just as we experience bad teachers in the classroom, we may also experience bad teachers in the online environment. Should let's determine our judgment whether to continue with it or not. If teachers are trained accordingly, students in the online environment will have the same aptitudes and capabilities as students that were in the traditional classroom.
On that note, I'd like to look to our audience. If you're a student, a teacher, administrator, we'd like to hear from you. Please post your comments on our discussion board, Snapshot of America. Technology is the future of education. We'd love to hear your comments. And thank you so much for joining us all. Everyone on the phone, thank you.
Thanks.